Have you been shadow banned by the liberal media? Free market got you down? Do you get ratioed on every Twitter post because of your shit takes on literally everything? Then producer Dave and HK are probably watching your 3-hour dissertation on how a tomato cannot possibly be a fruit because gender and critical race theory can be cured with ivermectin. The Intellectual Dollar Tree, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Please leave it a 1-star review on iTunes. Check out the rest of our schedule at echoplexmedia.com.
Don't forget to follow us on social media for beautiful food and inspiration.
Hey everybody, welcome to Downballot. We do this show live every Tuesday, almost every Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, right here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/EchoplexMedia. And since Twitch has unshackled us, we are now also simulcasting to YouTube, Facebook Live, and to kick.com, whatever the fuck that is. I'm producer Dave. You can find me on Grindr.
This is the Councilman. You can find me on X at THE_Councilman, and I've never fucking heard of whatever the fuck that last thing was, kick. But, you know, I'm sure I'll find it someday. And Also, I just wanted to report that COVID finally found its way into the councilman home. The good wife came down with it last week, but luckily the councilman has somehow avoided it. Bad baby's a little sick too, so it's just a lovely, lovely time over here. Lots of sniffling and snotting and all sorts of stuff. So if you hear a bad baby in the background tonight, listener, viewer, you'll know what's going on.
Well, that's terrible. I'm sorry that the good wife got the COVID, but I'm glad that y'all are vaxxed up so that she isn't going to die. Maybe
her symptoms actually were probably less than mine with a bad cold. I had a bad cold, so she was just really exhausted, but she's doing fine and she's testing negative now, so all good.
Very nice, very nice. Well, let's get going on this docket. What do we have for leading off?
Well, story that just popped up recently. We've had a couple weeks off, so there's been a lot happening, but it's local issues because the person in question is local. But you might have heard that there was an attempt to take over an airplane, an Alaska flight by a pilot who was. It looks like they were deadheading or flying along, but not actually one of the pilots on the plane. And we're going to learn a little bit more about what caused this pilot to go a little bit trippy, shall we say.
Court documents showing what happened when an East Bay pilot tried to interfere with a flight to SFO. That pilot expected to appear in court for the first time this afternoon to face federal charges. The flight was on its way to San Francisco from outside Seattle. Joseph Emerson from Pleasant Hill was riding in the jump seat in the cockpit. And according to court documents, the plane's pilots testified in affidavits that Emerson said, quote, "I'm not okay." That's when the pilots say he tried to pull red fire handles, and one of the pilots says he wrestled with Emerson and then asked him to leave the cockpit. Here's a piece of that in-flight audio.
We've got the guy that tried to shut the engines down out of the cockpit.
A flight attendant testified that Emerson told them, "You need to cuff me right now or it's going to get bad." She says he went to the emergency exit and tried to grab the handle. She said she stopped him by placing her hand on his. The flight was then safely diverted to Portland, where Emerson was arrested and told an officer he had taken psychedelic mushrooms. We caught up one of Emerson's Pleasant Hill neighbors.
It's really shocking. I'm really glad that they were able to take care of everything.
She's like, I've shroomed with him 15 times and he never freaked out on me.
And not jeopardize the passengers, but maybe that pilot needs some help of some sort.
The FBI is now investigating this case. Emerson is scheduled to be in court this afternoon. He faces multiple counts of attempted murder and reckless endangerment.
Ooh, attempted murder. My God.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, they just throw the book at him. It's interesting. The Chiron on this story particularly said pilot shuts down engines but the story is that he tried to, but he was not successful. So, yeah, I don't know what was going on there. For those of you who are not familiar with the term deadheading, I think I picked it up from Catch Me If You Can or that DiCaprio Scorsese movie or a Spielberg movie. But basically a pilot who, is just moving, needs to go from one city to another, just hops a ride on one of his airlines or her airlines flights, right? In a jump seat, but isn't actually flying the plane or even the co-pilot. So they're just there, but they are in the cockpit. So this is potentially another threat that has been revealed. I think the good news is it looks like the security measures all worked, right? No one was hurt. Everything was fine at the end of the day. And it sounds like this dude had a real fun time. But yeah, it's certainly something to worry about, whether your co-pilots on shrooms or if they're just stone cold sober. You want to make sure anyone getting into that cockpit is not trying to do anything nefarious with the plane, right?
What would possess anyone to take mushrooms and then get on a fucking aircraft?
That I don't know. I mean, it seems to me I'm claustrophobic myself, so having done tons of psilocybin and LSD in my life, I can say this much: I would never go out on a trip, a metaphorical trip, without being in a safe space. And I'm personally, I hate planes. I hate being enclosed in a space like that already. So if I was tripping on shrooms, it'd be just a million times worse, and I probably would freak out like this guy did. So I don't know what would possess, especially someone who's going to be in the cockpit. Unless, like you said, maybe he's a regular and he thought he could handle it, and his neighbor certainly thought he could handle it.
Yeah, it's like I mean, I've seen people that drank on a plane who shouldn't have drank on the plane. Like,
oh yeah, that includes me.
Mushrooms are like way more powerful. I mean, I've taken an edible before a flight because it was like a nighttime flight, and I was like, oh, maybe this will put my ass out, and it did actually. But like, you know, even if that would have made me a little bit paranoid, being on a plane would have sucked.
Yeah, I absolutely. The edibles are almost a necessity for me on a plane, but it's a totally different experience, especially if you drop like some indica edibles. You're going to be out in 5 seconds as opposed to, you know, wired and seeing your dead grandmother, you know, in the cockpit. Who knows? Kids, don't try this at home.
Yeah, don't take anything more than like a weed edible or like a bong hit,
because then you might get slapped with like 180 counts of attempted murder.
And then also don't get housed on the plane either. Don't get shit housed on the plane. You're less likely to do stuff like this, but you are likely to annoy the other passengers and the staff. And maybe one of the other people that's on the plane doesn't like flying, and you're just going to make it that much worse for them. So if you're going to get shit housed at the airport. And then when you hit the plane when you're on your way out of it so that you just pass out. Yeah,
that's the way to go. I've never seen anyone having more than just the odd cocktail on a plane who has been tolerable. They tend to get, I think we're all cooped up, and the tendency is to just start chatting, right? And just getting really chatty and really loud too. So for example, the good wife and I, we certainly appreciate it when people can just keep their conversations to conversation tone, because right now we got the baby with us, and we're trying to make sure that she's not annoying everyone else on the plane. So yeah, please keep your drug and alcohol consumption to a minimum or to reasonable measures when you're flying, and then fly the friendly skies.
And take the shrooms in the forest, not on in Alaska, not on Alaska Airlines.
Right. You should be flying to Alaska, or to Portland in this case, or from Portland to SFO. You should be flying to San Francisco to wander around San Francisco and Golden Gate Park on shrooms, which I've certainly done myself a number of times.
Even though that, for me, that's not the ideal environment for that. It's certainly better than inside of an aluminum tube going like 600 miles an hour.
Right. With whatever, 200 other people. All cramped in there. So yeah, good advice. Good advice.
We have advice from the chat, actually. If you're going to while out on the plane, take Spirit Airlines.
I think they encourage that, actually. I'm actually curious. We should probably look into following up on this. I want to see if I'm not sure if he's being charged with like an individual count of attempted murder for each passenger, or if it's just sort of one bulk, charge. Because I mean,
whatever it is, I imagine they're gonna plead it way down, right?
More than likely, extenuating circumstances, nothing, first offense, who knows? But I don't imagine he's getting away that easy, just because this is obviously very sensitive.
Also, we're going to go ahead and call this guy. We're going to go ahead and call this guy a former airline pilot.
Yeah, I think that's safe. That's a safe bet. I don't think he'll be flying the friendly skies anytime soon. Alaska's we care, right? So we care a lot, and we care a lot so much that we were going to fire this guy. So yeah, he'll have to find a new line of employment. But who knows? I'm sure there's something out there. Uber is looking for people.
We're going to move on to the segment that I would have assumed this story would have been in, and that's winners and losers, where there are no winners, and if anybody wins, it wasn't who you were rooting for. But I don't arrange the docket for this show, and I'm glad that you do, because I would be bad at it.
No, I think you've done perfectly fine when you've been tasked with doing it by my.
So up next for winners and losers, we got an earthquake alert that goes out 7 hours ahead of schedule, which actually I have some thoughts on this, but let's go ahead and run the video from the local news.
Welcome back. Many of us were jolted awake around 3:20 this morning to the blaring alarm of an earthquake alert phone warning system.
And while the test alert was planned as part of the Great Shakeout event today, it wasn't scheduled to actually happen until much later in the morning. KTV's Tom Vakar live tonight in Berkeley, right near the Hayward Fault, which geologists say, Tom, is overdue for a large seismic event here.
Not just near it, directly upon it, as it's snakes its way up through the East Bay, really out to Sassoon Bay. Now I'm looking at one of the Shake Alert apps here, and the earthquake shaking apps are actually just in their primary stages, even though they've been released. They're having some growing pains. They try to integrate many intricate technologies so that they can ultimately come up with, and hopefully soon, a delay-proof and an error-proof package. 7 hours early, At 3:19 a.m. Pacific Time, millions of people in California, Oregon, and Washington got a rude awakening when the MyShake app on their devices said it was only a test.
This was the test alert that was meant to be delivered at 10:19 a.m. Pacific Time. USGS
seismic scientist Robert DeGroot explains that someone inadvertently punched in the wrong time zone.
Because there was a time zone error in the app that forced the alert to be delivered according to universal time.
With that error corrected, as you can see on these 6 phones, at 10:19 a.m. and within seconds of each other, they got the alert, some lighting up, others not. One phone got no alert, even though it had one of the 2 alert apps.
Better things are coming all the time. We're continuously improving the systems.
We did get a surprise shake alert, didn't we? And a lot of people dismissed it as a drill. Never dismiss those alerts as a drill. Always check your phone and always find out exactly what's going on.
On BART, as the alert sounded at 10:20 a.m., operators slowed their trains down to 27 miles an hour, then came to a very brief stop. For folks at home, work, or school, the tried and tested reaction still holds.
We need to have a plan. We need to sit down with our family and discuss what we would do if we're together when the earthquake strikes.
Experts say the most important part of drop, cover, and hold is drop. Because with the earth moving beneath your feet, it's hard to stand up and protect yourself or get to safe cover. The members of the Amoroso family fully agree.
Protect ourselves by putting our hands over our neck and going under our desk. We go under the lunch tables outside, but if we're inside, we just go under our desks.
Great idea, especially for the kids to know how to handle themselves during an earthquake. As a parent, we're not there when things happen.
Now, in the Bay Area, the very worst could happen right here on the Hayward Fault, which is overdue for a major event, or, of course, the San Andreas on the ocean side of the bay. It is, as we've learned, a monster. Reporting live from Berkeley, Tom Bakar, KTVU Fox 2 News.
And Tom, compared to Loma Prieta, I mean, if we had a 6.8, a 7.0 on the Hayward Fault, do geologists think that the East Bay can handle something that strong?
Well, obviously the construction and the codes are far better than they are pretty much anywhere else in the world. Right. But there are a lot of older properties here, and not all of them have been retrofitted, so you can expect that there will be considerable damage, and very possibly fires, and very possibly other things, and that could overwhelm the mutual aid system. So unfortunately, we're going to have to see, but the more people can do to protect themselves, whether that's through direct action, hardening their houses and their businesses, or through the other way, trying to buy insurance, which is...
Oh, it just randomly stops. So I have some thoughts on this.
Please.
Just like an earthquake, that shit just happened at a time that it wasn't supposed to happen.
Pretty much. Yeah. And it's actually, if anything, if you want to drill, right? If you really want to drill people and get people to pay attention, don't tell them that the drill is coming, right? Like we heard about this thing for weeks in advance. Oh yeah, it's our annual MyShake app test drill. And it's like, I don't see the point of that. Like, you should surprise people because the earthquake's going to surprise you too. But yeah, cheers to the person who put it in UTC time zone. I know I have trouble. I mean, I have to sympathize. I have trouble setting my Google Calendar all the time when I travel, and I get lost and forget, what time it is and when I have a meeting. So I can sympathize a little bit. But this is it. If anything, this is actually, I think, benefits them. They could see. I don't know if they can check to see how many people opened the alert, that kind of thing. But I imagine 3:19 in the morning probably got better opens than 10:19 because people are at work, they're distracted, and they're test whatever.
Or if they already got one at 3:19, maybe they'd be like, well,
yeah, right.
That'd have been fucked up if there was an actual earthquake at 10:19, I suppose. You know what I liked was the duck and cover drill too, where the people were just in the middle of the rotunda somewhere. That's like the wrong place to be.
Right. I'm just going to cover my neck, and when the enormous metal and glass rafters fall on my head, I'll be fine because my neck won't be broken, but every other part of my body will be broken and lacerated.
Short of being able to get under a sturdy desk or whatever, find a pillar on the outside of the building, or a door frame, something.
Door frame. Yeah, that's typically what they do tell you is if there's a door frame nearby, because those are typically the sturdiest spots in a home. If you're in a building, I don't know what to tell you if you're on the ground floor of a high rise, but just be safe as much as you can. But there's really nothing. It's an earthquake. It's not like a fire. It's not like a flood where you can somewhat usually see them coming. You have some warning. You have a chance to get out, right? To evacuate. There really is no evacuation warning for an earthquake, right? You're going to have to go through it. What I do love is this is what I love about local news the most. They put like the oldest, most technologically illiterate correspondent, obviously, on this story, just to emphasize the need to get their shit together. And then they go back to the anchor. No wonder they cut the story off, because they go back to the anchor, and the anchor always has to, because they're not the reporter, maybe they have to have some sort of insight or question to add on, right? Because to make them look good or smart, or that they're paying attention. And this guy asks, do you think that the East Bay can withstand a 6.9 or 7.0 earthquake? What kind of question is that? And as if this Tom is going to be able to answer that question either, right? But yeah, no one's really prepared, and nothing's really prepared for a 7 earthquake. We do a lot better here than we do in you do in Bangladesh or places where there is no building code, right?
And it also depends. Not every 7.0 earthquake is the same. How long is it shaking at 7.0? Is it just a jolt, or is it sustained? That's a dumb question anyway.
Yeah. But we generally will do better. I mean, whatever you want to call it, better, less damage, less loss of life here in the Bay Area or in America, as opposed to, like I said, like Bangladesh or places in the third world that just don't have building codes really at all, and folks are living literally on top of each other in very poorly constructed buildings. So like you saw in Turkey and Syria with their quake recently, that's same situation there, and there was massive loss of life. But you just wouldn't see that here, which is good. But you just can never really be fully prepared. Just have some sort of plan there, right?
There's a famous clip of one Mr. Dave Rubin talking to Joe Rogan, where Dave Rubin's like, building codes are stupid, and even Joe Rogan's like, dude, what are you talking about? There's earthquakes and shit, man. He's like, this he's like, everybody will cut corners if they can.
Absolutely. So yeah, just regardless of all this, the tech it's good to see new tech, and hey, a couple seconds warning, not the worst thing in the world. So download the app. They'll figure it out. It'll get better. And yeah, if you get woken up randomly at 3:20 in the morning, go have a snack and go back to bed.
What's our next story?
Well, that's a fantastic question, Producer Dave. I'm going to have to consult the docket. Well, sorry. So
maybe you too should get a printer.
We're going to have a series of stories here about about San Francisco, getting its shit together, but public safety in San Francisco in general. So the first story is we heard about Salesforce coming back to San Francisco not long ago, and Mark Benioff especially was very pleased with how San Francisco had sort of cleaned up the area around Moscone. Well, now APEC is coming to San Francisco, and because there's world leaders coming to this conference, there's a lot more security that needs to happen, not just cleanliness around convention center. So some of the businesses that surround the area are concerned about the level of security and how it might impact their bottom line. So we're going to learn more about that from KTVU.
Thousands of people, including heads of state and major CEOs, set to make their way to San Francisco next month for the APEC conference. But many small businesses right near Moscone Center say they are left out of the plans.
Nobody is ready for what is coming, and no one really knows what is coming.
The city is planning a large security perimeter.
It's a fucking conference. It's not Godzilla.
On Moscone to accommodate all the dignitaries and world leaders, and that could actually be an issue for some of the businesses inside the corridor. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Meeback.
And I'm Julie Hayner. Many streets will be closed to traffic, and that has small business owners worried. New at 6 tonight, KTVU's Crystal Bailey live in San Francisco after speaking with business owners about their concerns. Crystal.
Well, Julie, the city is encouraging businesses to stay open, but I spoke to about half a dozen small business owners who tell me that they're worried because they don't know how to prepare or staff for this event. And restaurant owners actually tell me that there will be food provided for the attendees here at Moscone Center, so they're not even sure if people will visit the restaurants, especially the ones further away from the activity. Right now, there are more questions than there are answers. It's the highly anticipated boost San Francisco leaders are expecting for the city.
This event is slated to be bigger than Dreamforce in its impact.
But the APEC conference is going to disrupt commuters all over the city.
It's going to pose a big challenge.
With the highest security clearance closing vehicle and bike access to these security zones south of Market and Nob Hill. People will be allowed to walk into these zones to access their homes or workplaces, but they'll have to go through a screening at a security checkpoint.
We don't really know what it's going to look like, if it's going to be like waiting at SFO or Oakland Airport to board a flight.
The owner of Doctor's Orders Massage and Fitness says he didn't realize he was in one of those security zones, and he'll call all of his clients to prepare to wait in line at a security checkpoint and walk or reschedule their appointments.
Since I do deal with ClassPass, I'll make sure they notify them, and I will mark myself out for that time frame.
Restaurants in the security zone with fresh food deliveries will struggle to get supplies.
Deliveries of any product coming in will only be allowed between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., which is not necessarily normal delivery times for a lot of places.
Some chefs saying they'll get their deliveries the week before, and as a result, will have to take meals with fresher ingredients like oysters off the menu.
I think that there would be a significant amount of business owners that would be, if given the option, would sit this one out.
City leaders are advising business owners and residents to build in extra time to get around and encouraging attendees to support small businesses while they're here. Now, about a third of the small business owners that I spoke to say they will be closing, specifically the ones at Metreon. The city tells me that they will be sending someone door to door to provide more information, and the Board of Supervisors will vote tomorrow to decide whether or not to provide more funding specifically to those restaurants here within the perimeter. I'm live in San Francisco. Back to you, Julie.
All right, Crystal Bailey reporting live for us tonight.
Okay, she said a third of restaurants she spoke to, but she said she spoke to half a dozen restaurateurs, so the sample size there is 6.
Correct. And so a third of that is what, 2?
2, yeah.
So it's a real going concern, I would say. Yeah, it's typical. You hear this. There were other stories actually we could have pulled up this week. There was one about another like road diet or a bike lane that was going to somehow just ruin everyone's business on the street, right? Because I don't know, people are not driving past at 30 miles an hour, but like riding their bike past, at a slower velocity and maybe able to stop and enjoy their business at some point. So yeah, it's just, to me, they're looking for this handout, right? This is a way of like, we go to the press and we complain and we gripe and yeah, it looks like they're getting a handout from the city to support themselves. But, yeah, it's a conference, and, this is how they roll. They should be, if anything, you should be a, smarter business owner and try to figure out how to take advantage of the situation as opposed to complaining about it, in my perspective.
Or if you think that it's not going to work for your business, maybe go to the conference people and be like, hey, write me a check.
Yeah, right. Like, not why does the city need to put the bill for that? They're just trying to look out for the residents, look out for other businesses, right? So by the way, Bad Baby has joined us. Hello, Bad Baby. But yeah, so again, it's more feeding into this. They're just trying to play off the perception that San Francisco is, completely falling apart, and trying to use that to their advantage and to get a little more payout from the city. So we'll see what happens. I imagine that things are going to go off without a hitch, and we shouldn't see any malfeasance around the conference. But if anything, the malfeasance will happen inside the conference as opposed to
yes, that's what I'm saying. I would be worried about the level of crime happening inside the conference.
Correct. Yeah.
But those are maybe crimes against humanity, breaking international law, conspiring to violate the Geneva Convention.
Yeah, those minor concerns. I mean, it's not as bad as someone shooting up outside or jaywalking. So we shall see. But as mentioned, we've covered this a lot, but the state of San Francisco is certainly on a lot of people's minds, and it looks like residents seem to have differing perspectives on how things are going in San Francisco. So we're going to hear a little bit more about that from our good friends at KPIX. And I'm going to give the Bad Baby a bottle.
You have no doubt seen a lot of talk about the demise of San Francisco, pointing to homelessness, crime, vacancies in downtown offices. You might even be a doom loop believer yourself, thinking the city will never pull out of the spiral it seems to be in, but not everyone is convinced that San Francisco is actually circling the drain. As Wilson Walker shows us, it can start to sound like dueling realities as this debate gets intense.
The bottom oven at the slightly lower temperature is mostly to set the crust and kind of get the rise started.
The oven is set, the goods are assembled, and the door is open for another day at Out of Sight Pizza, just celebrating its first birthday.
It's crazy it's only a year. It feels like it's been 5, probably aged 5 years too.
Co-owner Peter Doran says it has not been easy opening a business in the heart of San Francisco's Tenderloin. The challenges in this neighborhood have made headlines around the world, headlines that often flat out describe San Francisco as a failed city.
It feels good to be down here, and I don't feel scared or dangerous. And like I said, I don't like that doom loop from the news. It's the people that actually live and work and like fight for the city don't have that feeling.
When I got here in the late 80s, AIDS epidemic, people were dying left and right. You know, the murder rate was 3 times higher than it is today. But we came back.
Jim Osman isn't having any doom loop either. He has jumped into the ferocious online battle over the state of the city, arguing that the failed city is actually fiction spun by those who are only looking at the problems.
There's people who are getting paid to do this, right? To just bash San Francisco. They take pictures of Tenderloin, they show people, suffering the same 4 or 5 blocks, and they say, oh, this is San Francisco. Look at this. Look at Dolores Park, So a lot of it's your perspective, right?
Yeah, but that's like a well-to-do white guy who clearly lives in the Castro.
And Fernal Heights.
That's the other side of San Francisco, right?
Right. Doing great. In fact, better than ever.
South Market, maybe a different story.
South Market, different story, right?
It's definitely not the same place that I'm used to. Definitely not,
Yvonne does live in South of Market, and she has lived here most of her life.
I've been here many years, and it's not the same place that I remember. Not at all. Not at all.
That sense that the city has changed or taken a step backwards, that is something you hear often and from different places. Earlier this year, I met Jeffrey, who is living on the streets in San Francisco, and during our conversation, he offered this assessment of the city.
San Francisco is not what it used to be by any means. I thought it used to be worse. When I first got here, I was intimidated, but it wasn't. It was a nice city. There's nice people here. There still is, but it's not like the pandemic. The city's a mess.
If you have heard this discussion, and I'm guessing you have, you know that it can sound like 2 different realities as people offer up diverging takes on what is actually happening in San Francisco. My sense is that what someone makes of the state of the city has a lot to do with who they are, where they are, and what direction they are looking. Are you comparing now to 2019? Are you comparing now to 1979? I think there's a lot of room for crosstalk here, and this debate can get very heated as it gets pulled into the gravity of San Francisco politics.
I actually think what you're getting at is something that is probably the most important thing in American politics right now, not just San Francisco politics, is that we create groups. We create us's and we create them's, right?
Jason McDaniel's a political science professor at San Francisco State. He says the doom loop debate and the city's angry politics are the inevitable byproducts of a city that is facing a long list of very complicated problems.
Is it homelessness? Is it fentanyl? Is it drug use? Is it drug dealers? Is it the police? Is it government? Is it incompetence at the bureaucratic level? Is it outsiders and tech people coming here and changing things? None of those are easy answers, and none of those are easy solutions to very complicated problems, and I think people are very frustrated by that.
It has been hard times in the city, and even those who reject the doom loop idea acknowledge that there are big challenges.
I think that downtown's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, we have our problems, of course, but every major city has their problems.
The scale of the problems may be a matter of perspective. Doom loop, failed city, or city on the rebound. Time will provide more headlines and eventually some answers.
I think that's the first time they've ever talked to someone who actually lives or works in the Tenderloin on one of these.
Right. I want to have that guy, that pizza shop owner, on the show. He had the best perspective I think we've heard yet about it, right? Every city has problems, and if you really care about the city, and if you care about where you live and work, then you can see through the doom loop narrative, and really, it's anyway. You have a different perspective. Sorry.
That's okay. We'll move on to the next story here. We have two SF billionaires reach into the change in their couch and launch a $4 million campaign to boost civic pride. Fucking whatever. These are probably two billionaires who are on Twitter all the time complaining about the state of the city.
San Francisco, where a new $4 million campaign aims to refresh the city's image and boost civic pride.
Organizers acknowledge the city is facing some challenges, but tell reporter Dallin that San Francisco is still a city that people can be proud of.
Forget about the national audience for a sec. Even locals here in the Bay Area have this negative image of San Francisco, and organizers are pushing back on that narrative, saying while San Francisco is working to fix those problems, there are a lot of good things happening here.
San Francisco, make some noise!
The noise about San Francisco has been anything but positive in recent years. A struggling downtown with businesses closing, rampant drug dealing in the Tenderloin, along with homelessness and car break-ins plaguing the city.
I think the narrative is lazy. I think it's easy to say this is the worst part of the city, let's highlight that, but they're not highlighting the best parts of the city either.
Monica Mactoto is an SF artist who's partnered with the It All Starts Here SF campaign. She and a team of volunteers are using art to highlight the Mission District.
There's always so much color, smells, food, taste, and I really wanted to bring that to life here in this mural.
Artists from 11 San Francisco districts are showcasing each district's unique qualities in this festival to kick off the Civic Pride campaign. It All Starts Here SF is funded mostly by two local billionaires, tech CEO Chris Larson and Bob Fisher with the Gap clothing company.
This is not marketing or sweeping our problems under the rug. This is about bringing folks together, exemplifying our pride, and showing the nation that we always come back.
Where grit and organizers will be buying and running ads in local traditional media and social media in the coming days. The ad highlights San Francisco as an innovative and creative hub that's changed the world.
That launched railroads, electric cars.
Mayor London Breed
cleaning
up the streets and tackling crime to restore law and order.
Part of what we have to do along with a campaign like this is ensure safety, or even the perception of safety.
Some businesses...
No, that's actually what you're more interested in.
Citing retail...
We'll get more into that later.
Others are still investing in the city, like IKEA. Chateau Mate opened a huge, high-end rooftop restaurant in Union Square this weekend.
Get people excited about San Francisco, and part of it is you have to counter some of the negativity with some of the positivity in what's going on.
As for Monica, she's optimistic San Francisco will make a comeback.
I think it's still a world-class city, and I also think it's up to us and the people that come to visit to take care of this place as if we do love it.
Some say while it's great to boost people's morale, they say the real solution to fixing San Francisco's image is to clean up the streets and bring businesses back to downtown.
You're not going to bring the same businesses back to downtown, though.
Right. I mean, the retail, the economy in general has just changed in so many ways that, you know, it's not going to be the same. Right. And I think it seems to me that so many cities and are trying to bring back what has left instead of thinking about how they can evolve and face, you know, and accept reality of where things have headed and embrace it and try to leverage, you know, where things have gone to benefit themselves and to think ahead, right? So many industries, be it journalism, be it retail, you name it, that have been impacted by the internet, right? Over the past 30 years and have failed to really think ahead, and they've gotten beat, right? Like there's a reason why local journalism is failing and local print media is failing, is because they didn't adapt with the times, right? And they held on too tightly to old notions. So yeah, you're not going to bring it back. And more bally to these guys for, you know, trying to shine a brighter, you know, more positive light on the situation. I guess they're kind of like, if that pizza owner in the Tenderloin had billions of dollars, maybe he would run these kind of ads. I don't know, but you know, it just seems like we're clamoring, we're fiending for a world that's just not coming back, and maybe really didn't even ever exist. You know, sometimes we look at these things with rose-colored glasses. We look at the past, and it's always greener than the grass is always greener there than it is now. So,
and I think a lot of people moved into South of Market not understanding what the fuck South of Market was when they moved into South of Market. South of Market is 1015 Folsom. South of Market is a bunch of gay bars and clubs. South of Market is a bunch of illegal parties. South of Market is the gateway to the fucking Hunter's Point, where all the raves are and shit, and where they used to say that was the bad part of the city. And yeah, the end up is there. The stud's coming back, and it's going to be in South of Market. The people that moved there wanted to move to Pleasanton, smack in the middle of fucking San Francisco. And that's not what South of Market was. The first time South of Market failed was because all the industry left, and it was replaced with world-class entertainment. DJs and musicians from all over the world wanted to play at these clubs in South of Market. 1015 Folsom is a world-class legendary venue, and it's still there, and nobody talks about it.
Sure. I mean, what they do talk about is all the development happening around the ballpark and the Warriors Arena and all that lovely, growth happening on South 3rd Street and Bayview in that area. But yeah, like you said earlier, the previous story, and I so much apologize, my cough decided to come out at the worst possible time. It really depends on your perspective, right? And where you live, even within a city, right? There are different neighborhoods with different vibes and different problems and different positives and pros and cons. And I think we all get used to sometimes in our little nook and corner of the world, right? And we don't necessarily see the forest for the trees, but it is going to depend on your perspective and as a person, your biases, and then where you live and what you see every day outside your front door, right? And you're right. I think that some folks, a lot of times, not just Soma, but anywhere really, even in San Jose, I've noticed folks move to a neighborhood and they don't necessarily, it's like they don't do their research, or they don't, really know what they're getting into, or they don't understand what they're getting into. And it's not what they expected, right? But that's not the city's fault. That's not the city writ large, not the city government, but that's not the city's fault. It's not San Francisco's fault that you don't like where you live. It's just, that was your choice, right? And it's a city that has its issues just like anywhere else. And you got to roll with those just like you roll with the good stuff. Everything. There's so many great things about San Francisco and about cities and about living in a city, even San Jose, that to me outweigh the whatever negatives you might perceive about it. But it's almost like it all, like we talk about a lot. It all goes with the territory, right? If you want a nice, quiet, pastoral existence, move to Pleasant Hill, right? There's a reason why it's called Pleasant Hill,
right? Or even just where I live, I was a little surprised by this place because the food, oh my god! But that's you better Indian, Ethiopian, and Afghani food. But I was also thinking the first tech boom, or the first tech boom of our lives, because there were tech booms in what we call Silicon Valley prior to the 90s, right? There was the integrated circuit boom, and there were other booms, right. But the first internet boom was accompanied by a kind of a dank, dark underbelly where there were fucking illegal warehouse parties every weekend in Oakland, Friday and Saturday night, with tens of thousands of people at them. And the second boom, I guess we'll call it the Web 2.0 boom, came with the police cracking down on that. And then this third boom, I guess, that we're about to hit, the AI boom or whatever, nobody's even thinking of doing that. And I just feel like I don't know for sure, and it might be some nostalgia on my part, but I feel like there's a way in which maybe the tech boom and the kind of darker, danker, louder underbelly of the Bay Area were synergistic in a way, where you had to have the form of the latter, or you couldn't really have the former. Yeah, no, I absolutely. I think you're right. Like we were saying, every what is it? Newton's law. Every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction, right? That's there's a nexus point between the good and the bad, and you just have to find that and that balance. And everything that's great about a city is going to come with consequences on the back end, right? I think the more we get comfortable with that, the better. And it's just not surprising that we see different varying perspectives. You see varying takes because you're having people influenced in a lot of different ways. But I mean, most people are influenced by what they see out their front door, but then what they see on the news, right? If they don't go out at all, they just watch the news. And if they only watch the local news, you think the world was falling fucking apart. That's what we do on this show, is cover local news. So if you only watch the clips and you don't listen to us discussing the clips, you would think the world was falling apart.
And it benefits these news stations, at least they think so, to make that case and to push that narrative because it helped, people tune in. People tune in to see the car wreck, or as we'll cover later, vehicle versus structure. But they don't necessarily tune in for another thing, right? For the good human interest story or the positive story or something. And they don't cover enough of those stories. And maybe it's because they think, maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy where they don't think people want to hear it, so they don't push it out. And all people end up hearing is negative, right? And they don't hear anything positive.
Like I had the last time I played at DNA Lounge, the person I was like, oh, whatever. I was like, one of my friends was like, oh, I'll drive. And I was like, oh, let's take transit and just grab a hotel room or something, And then they insisted on driving. We didn't get a hotel room. And then the day of, they're like, oh, I don't want to drive to San Francisco. My car's going to get broken into. And this person's a musician. And I'm like, you're a musician. You're like, you're the person who's supposed to go to San Francisco.
Right. It's exactly right. So if my only concern is that this does, like you said, it prevents the people who, would benefit from and would really enjoy living in a city or living in San Francisco from even considering it as an option, right? Or cities in general. But I think San Francisco obviously is in the crosshairs in a lot of ways nationwide, and always sort of used by the right as a sort of pincushion, right, for liberal crazies and liberal values. I worry that this narrative of people leaving and fleeing the city and finding other greener pastures just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
I'm here for it. I want to move back to San Francisco. Fucking get out. If you don't like it there, get the fuck out.
That's entirely why. Especially, it's so bloody expensive to live in the Bay Area in the first place, right? So, like, why in the world, if it's really that bad, if you really think it's that awful, you can probably find a place that's a lot more affordable and where you're not spending, half your salary on rent, and probably feeling, a little better about things. If that's what you're looking for, right? We pay the premium because this is, at the end of the day, a really great place to live. Climate, entertainment, what have you, right? People, diversity, food. I would love to come get some Afghan food with you, by the way. I think I'm going to come up next week and do that once I get better. But yeah, get, like he said, get in, get out if that's how you really think. And but if you really believe in San Francisco and the Bay Area, like the pizza shop owner said, just keep on plugging away and don't believe the hype.
I also think there's something else going on where people just want to act like they're like better than everybody else in San Francisco, sort of like, oh, I live here, but I'm better than the other people here. I don't know if that makes sense. There's a way in which they want all the food and all the amenities, but they also want you to know that they're better than the other people in San Francisco.
Sure. Like they, because they live in Potrero Hills. So suddenly,
or even the Castro, maybe.
Right. No, yeah. Especially the Castro. And no, you're right. I think that there is kind of a privilege factor there and a bit of an ego factor there too. But we all love our neighborhood, right? We all love where we hopefully do. Love
I don't really have a neighborhood anymore, but
we try to have pride in where we're from, right? But yeah, it's good to have a broader perspective. It's good to realize that what's happening outside your front door is not indicative of the greater world. And certainly what's on the local news is not indicative of what's happening in the greater community all the time, or most of the time. But that's why we're here, to break it down for you.
So we're going to move on to the next story here. We got a Silicon Valley CEO gets 8 years in prison after what appears to be some kind of COVID testing fraud.
This is Theranos adjacent, so we'll just let the news play out here.
Valley medical technology company was sentenced to 8 years in prison and ordered to pay $24 million for being involved in a fraud scheme related to coronavirus testing. Now, 60-year-old Mark Sheena is the president of Ariat. It's a biomedical company in Sunnyvale.
No, I can see what's wrong. They're just out of focus.
Administered faulty COVID-19 tests and then bundled them with unnecessary allergy tests while lying to his investors. He's accused of submitting $77 million in false claims for the testing.
The California...
Whoa, $77 million. That guy's fucked.
Yes. And I don't know that he got any investments from like Henry Kissinger or anything, but former secretaries of state. But yeah, I'm wondering who his investors were. But Yep. Just be careful. Be careful when you're looking for easy ways out and easy tests and easy anything. Don't believe the hype.
Yeah,
that baby says, don't believe the hype.
Yeah, for sure. I just, what a horrible time to like lie and grift. And apparently, I didn't hear anything about this person like defrauding any war criminals. So I'm like very much against it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, absolutely. Of all the things to grift on, right? There's so many just things that deserve to be taken advantage of and used as a money-making tool. But this is COVID, a global pandemic, hundreds and thousands, millions of people dead. It's just not. It's bad form, bro. It's bad form.
So we're going to move on to get your shit together, and it looks like the Vallejo Police Department is having some more trouble. They're under a 5-year state oversight because they need to make some reforms. I don't know. This is good though. This is where like higher levels of government are sort of necessary, like how our system of like small local governments, slightly bigger county government, and then bigger state government. And this is like what it's supposed to do, actually. So
correct. Yeah.
So
not pictured here. I don't know if they're going to show it, but it's the last straw was, I think that there was video of a Vallejo cop punching a woman that they had pulled over for a traffic violation. So it's just pretty bad in Vallejo. So we're going to find out more about what the AG is doing to try to resolve this.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta announcing a new agreement with the city of Vallejo and the Vallejo Police Department.
Each of us is here because we are committed to serving and protecting the members of this community.
The stipulated judgment outlines reform to VPD's policies and practices. It builds off a prior memorandum of understanding that expired in June.
To date, the Vallejo Police Department has substantially complied with 20 of the 45 recommendations. Progress for sure, but also not enough.
The new 5-year plan requires VPD to comply with all 45 recommendations, as well as additional reforms related to bias, use of force, searches, seizures, and arrests. It also adds accountability components, including an oversight and reform evaluator who will assess if VPD is complying with the agreement. Interim Police Chief Jason Ta addressed concerns regarding staffing shortages.
It's going to be a challenge.
And explained why VPD missed the mark in the prior agreement.
What we learned in hindsight was a lot of these reforms had to be completed at the same time. Initially, when we started our efforts, we were working it chronologically.
The previous MOU was entered into days after a Vallejo police officer shot and killed Sean Monterosa from the backseat of an unmarked police vehicle.
Wait, what?
Sister Michelle says she's
Yeah, we had that on Downballot, I think.
There was a time when we didn't hear anything from anyone.
Monterosa's sisters have been advocating on his behalf for the past 3 years.
All our pleas haven't gone unheard, not just our families, but communities. And to see this collaborative agreement come forward is just a testament to all the work that everyone has done.
During the announcement, there was little said about the AG's investigation into Monterosa's death.
We're looking into Monterosa, of course.
But his sister says that's okay. They are patiently waiting.
When things are rushed, they're not always done right. So, our family has always grounded ourselves in understanding that when the time is right, we'll get the answers we need.
The new agreement has the full support of the Vallejo City Council and mayor, who said it could become a roadmap for others.
As we build together the successful transformation of the Vallejo Police Department into the first California Police Department to be a daily living example of the highest level of police professionalism in the state of California.
The mayor called on the Vallejo Police Officers Association to support what needs to be done, perhaps even faster than 5 years. I reached out to the Vallejo POA for comment and have not yet heard back. In the newsroom for the IT, Melanie Woodrow, ABC 7 News.
Oh, you know who hates this is the Police Officers Association.
Yeah, I don't think Melanie is going to be getting a response anytime soon, and if she does, it's not going to be a very pleasant response.
It'll be a poop emoji.
Correct. That'll be it, right? Or just a bag of poop. Who knows? Yeah. So good on the state for stepping in. Like you said, checks and balances are always good. It sucks that it had to happen in the first place, right? But I don't think any of us are surprised at this point. Between Vallejo, Fairfield, San Francisco, San Jose, just seen it's just policing is fucked in this country, right? And law enforcement is corrupt, and maybe not every cop is a bastard, but there's certainly quite a few out there, and this is the system. It is designed, as we've talked about before.
I mean, the argument there is if one chooses to participate in that system, then they are complicit in that system. So
correct, and that goes right up to the elected officials and everyone who lets them skate. Right, we're going to get into that in down ballot in just a second. Not just skate, but elected officials who prop them up and try to give them even more power, right, and try to defer even more to law enforcement. So it's good to see this happening in Vallejo. In a way, we really have a national reform of law enforcement, but good luck getting that to happen anytime soon. But a reckoning is upon us and is coming, but it's going to be slow and methodical, and it'll have fits and starts like the George Floyd and protests and Black Lives Matter. But I think that on the whole, perceptions are changing and attitudes are changing, but it's going to take some time. And it's just funny to see all these elected officials standing up, to look like they're just so woke and they're doing such a good thing, when more than likely they were just letting these things slide and not really paying much attention until someone got hurt. We did cover that story, though. I do recall that when you remember, it's the cop shot the dude through the window of it, like he shot out the window of his car, and shot the suspect like through the window, through the backseat window. So obviously the suspect was a massive threat to this officer who was locked in his police vehicle. So
I mean, not for nothing, that is some fancy shooting.
I mean, yeah. To be honest, yeah. I mean, if you can get that done, I don't know how much the broken glass like deflects bullets or that kind of thing. I'm guessing, but yeah, you got to be a pretty good marksman to hit someone from the other side of a backseat window.
All right, we're going to move on to the Down Ballot Watch segment part of the show. This is where it is more directly about local politics, where we are covering city council meetings and local government officials and basically the things they are saying and doing and enacting in their cities. And this first one is Mayor London Breed put a ballot measure to give the police more power in San Francisco because, all the big cities are defunding the police.
Right. So why not just fall in line with that, right?
Back here in the Bay Area, San Francisco police could get more power and more tools to fight crime.
Mayor London Breed announced a safer San Francisco ballot measure for the March 2024 election. But not everyone is on board with this proposal. Our Jose Martinez is here to explain. Jose?
Well, guys, I spent some time in the center of the Mission District, where Safer San Francisco sounds like a needed plan to address public safety. But there's concern over the possible impact it could have on communities of color. I'm here in the center of the Mission, where Safer San Francisco sounds like a needed plan to address public safety. But there's a concern out here.
Looks hella dangerous to me.
The impact it could have
on
communities of color. It's the newest plan from the city to fight crime.
We are introducing today is a change that is necessary, a change that recognizes that we have evolved, a change that recognizes that we want safe streets in every part of San Francisco, in every neighborhood. We want to see change in San Francisco.
Mayor London Breed refers to a Safer San Francisco ballot measure for the March 2024 election. The measure would give officers access to technology like drones, ease restrictions and police chases in the city, and reduce paperwork requirements for officers, but not everyone thinks this is a good idea.
Policing doesn't equal safety. The Supreme Court themselves has said that just because you're a police officer doesn't mean that you're responsible, and it, as a result of that, has meant that it doesn't necessarily bring more safety to communities.
We met with Delta Medina right in the heart of the Mission, where she works as a community leader. She says over-policing has already caused enough damage to communities of color.
There is policy paper after policy paper. There are study after study that shows that so often over-policing doesn't create more safety. And who gets to be over-policed and how they get to be over-policed is also falls around racial, class, and economic lines.
Her biggest concern is the use of technology. Right now, SFPD officers cannot use city-owned and operated cameras and drones to prevent, investigate, and solve crimes. But if this measure is approved, those policies will change. And she's afraid that these tactics could create more incidents like the Dolores Park Hill bomb back in July, where officers clashed with hundreds of teenagers, resulting in arrests and lawsuits.
The hill bombing that happened a couple of months ago, this is a place where young people were corralled by police, harassed, parents weren't notified, people's civil rights and young people's civil rights were violated.
But even though the city promises that it will all be done while protecting civil liberties and data retention, Deldep says she's expecting a major campaign so people can understand what this means. And Deldep tells me she will stay on top of this issue, having more conversations with the community.
So the part in there that was most concerning to me was they were like, oh, and reducing the regulation around police chases.
Yeah. What's that all about exactly?
San Francisco is a pretty intense place to drive. And so
already, yes.
If somebody flees from the cops, what you're doing, you're not just doubling if the police chase them, you're not just doubling the number of people traveling at an unsafe speed. Maybe if somebody flees the cops, they're only driving unsafely for a couple blocks. If the cops are like, well, we're not going to chase you, have your license plate number, we're going to find your ass, fuck you. Like if there's no bomb in their car or whatever, but this like would dramatically increase the number of people traveling at an unsafe speed. And it seems just like a bad idea. Like, it sounds like this is like the cowboy cop initiative.
Yeah, it's almost like a reversal. Like in that specific thing with the chases, most from what I've heard, standard practice now is moving towards less of that, right? And using other tools to capture these folks and not pursuing, right? Because of the threat to public safety, because it's so general safety, right? You capture the one criminal, but you end up, hurting so many more people. So this just seems again like not so much overkill, but just like a reverse or going step backwards, and not really, not really conducive with setting a new tone for policing. But as I kind of noted in the docket, tongue in cheek, it's not as though this is completely on brand for Mayor Breed and for DA Jenkins. They have absolutely branded themselves as tough on crime, pro cop, elected officials, and that's part of their game plan, their values, their talking points. So it's entirely makes perfect sense for London Breed to pitch this, and it makes perfect sense for her to pitch it for the March election when you're going to have a much more conservative electorate, a smaller electorate, right? So the people who it's going to impact the most, like Deldep Medina and all of her constituents in the Mission and all the black and brown people in San Francisco, they just don't vote at as high a number in primary elections, especially like random ass March primary elections. You would, if you wanted to have a more diverse electorate, a more representative electorate, you would go for a November ballot. So they deliberately are targeting November or March because they want this to pass, and they want to have an electorate that's going to pass it, right? So it's really shady on all fronts, and it's incredibly disappointing to see from Mayor Breed. But it's like I said, it's in line with her narrative already. So I can't say that she's not off brand, but she's certainly off my brand.
And I don't know what they mean with the drones. I feel like there's a way in which actually a drone could be an alternative to a police chase if used properly.
Sure.
Because the drone, like, they're not even going to see the drone. And then, like, you can't outrun the fucking radio. And so, right. But again, like, we have these cases in the past where, like, the problem is, like, you start giving that drone camera feed to the news, and now the shit's like a spectator sport or something, right? And so I just see ways in which it's bad to for more generally to give the police drones. But if they could be deployed, if people flee in dense areas to avoid high speed chases, I feel like that would be like a harm reduction measure. But I feel like that's not what they want the drones for.
No, absolutely not. Not absolutely, but more than likely not. I don't know their true intentions. But yeah, I think you're dead right. And yeah, we absolutely should use technology to help people, to save damage and protect the general public. But yeah, more often than not, the tech has been and can be used for purposes that are not that, right? And to make us more of a surveillance state and a police state. I just don't think that's where we need to be right now. And I think the majority of people would agree with us in that regard. But again, the majority of people don't vote, and the majority of people certainly don't vote in March elections. So I venture to guess that if they get this on the ballot, it's going to pass. I don't know that she can, I guess, maybe with mayor's executive powers in San Francisco, I don't know exactly how that works. She might be able to put this on the ballot unilaterally without like a vote of the Board of Supervisors. But generally, you get on the ballot by having a vote of the council or the elected officials in that jurisdiction, or the people sign a petition, to put it on the ballot. So it sounds like she's trying to just do this unilaterally, which might be within her powers as mayor. I don't particularly know because I'm from San Jose, where the mayor doesn't have that kind of power, and we're going to find out more about that in the next story. Segue.
Up next is Mayor Ed 209 talking about San Jose's top issues.
Yes, this is his State of the City address.
San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan gave his first State of the City address this weekend. He talked about some of the top issues the city is now facing and how he plans to fix them.
KTVU South Bay reporter LaMonica Peters live now in San Jose with more from Mahan's address. LaMonica.
Julie, the mayor talked about key issues like making San Jose safer, mental health and homelessness, emphasizing that we all must work together to make San Jose a city where everyone can thrive.
By coming together and supporting our small businesses, tackling trash and graffiti, helping our homeless neighbors, and keeping each other safe.
In his first State of the City address, San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan spoke
Not exactly a full house.
College Saturday. The event began with acknowledgments from the presidents of San Jose City College and its associated student government.
We invite the community to join us in addressing the pressing needs and affordability for all of our students. For together, we can create a brighter future.
After performances and presenting Community Hero Awards, Mahan spoke about getting back to basics, including doing things like beautifying San Jose.
Since taking office, my team has hosted a cleanup nearly every week, activating 2,914 volunteers and taking nearly 200.
So that sounds like a Scientology event where, like, we have spread 2,000 books.
Yes,
with L. Ron Hubbard's technology.
He's very much about metrics and, we've responded to, X number of thousands of constituent concerns with our like Salesforce style automated response system, right? That categorizes your complaint and plugs you into a series of emails that you'll get to respond to your complaint. That's not really even a human. So yeah, this is entirely in line with Ed 209's vision for the city.
1,000 pounds of trash.
Lots of trash.
And taking nearly 200,000 pounds of trash off our streets and out of our creeks.
The mayor also talked about improving safety by hiring more police, the use of speed safety cameras, and tackling retail theft.
We've recently collaborated to update the booking process to ensure that the DA and Superior Court judges have sufficient information when making critical decisions about prosecution and release or detention.
Addressing one of the city's most pressing issues, Mahan talked about how his administration is dealing with homelessness and the path to get more people off the street.
This year alone, we've issued permits for 842 new affordable apartments, opened over 150, and have over 1,000 more in the pipeline.
That's 842 apartments, not 842 apartment buildings, just so everybody's clear here.
Correct.
The mayor also talked about a new urban planning fellowship with San Jose State University that will bring fresh new talent into the city. And he talked about improving the building permit process so that we can have more housing built faster. Julie?
Yeah, something the Bay Area desperately needs. LaMonica, thank you. Well,
once again, LaMonica looking good.
I just got massive David Miscavige vibes from him when he was talking, to be perfectly honest. Like, there's just the way he was talking about the metrics and stuff. It was absolutely just vibes based.
Can you give me a little more? I'm not familiar with Mr. Miscavige.
He is the president of the ecclesiastical leader of the cult of Scientology.
Ah, great. Yeah, no, I definitely get the cultish vibe off of Mayor Matt. I have from the beginning with his revolution of common sense, which is such a great misnomer and such an oxymoron. Yeah, no, again, this is entirely. This is his world, right? He comes from a tech startup background. He comes from that VC space where they're all concerned about the numbers and the how can you become more efficient? How can you spend less of my money and make me more money? In this case, it's being applied to the public sector, which is kind of ridiculous because it's not really the point. The point of the public sector is really to break even, right? With and use all the resources you get to do things provide services for people. It's not about making investors profits, right? It's not about maximizing your return. So this idea of running government like a business, while it sounds good in a sound bite or in a campaign slogan, it certainly has no place in practice, right? In reality, if anything, you run a city or a government more like a nonprofit, as opposed to a for-profit business, where you are just you bring in the revenue that you need to provide the programs that you provide, and you adjust year to year, really. All of this really is in service to him trying to prove that because he's only dealing with a special 2-year mayoral cycle term, right? He has to get reelected next year after being elected last year. It's all in service to just proving his worth and making him seem like he's been productive and he's gotten things done. But who's listening, really? As you could see, like that room was pretty sparse. There were a lot of chairs, but not a lot of people. I recall I went to a number of Mayor Liccardo's. Also
not unlike a Scientology event.
Right. Or maybe they're all invisible. Maybe they're all in the fourth dimension. But I remember going to a number of Mayor Liccardo's states of the city, and they were packed. Like there was not an empty seat in the House, and much bigger room. So maybe it's just lack of marketing savvy, or maybe people just aren't interested in what he's selling. Or it was on a Saturday, and it was raining. So who knows? But it's yet to be seen if he even has a serious challenger in the election next year. He could get reelected in March in the primary, because it doesn't look like anyone is stepping up to challenge him.
Yeah, it's too late in the game, honestly. I don't think anybody's coming.
Yeah, the only person, Cindy Chavez would be the only person who would have the capacity to do it in terms of, raising money, having the name ID, and she lost to him just last year. So it's not as though that's going to change a whole lot, especially in a March election. So there'll probably be I'm sure someone will file, like, my gardener will probably file to run against him. But yeah, no one's serious. So it's all just him clearing the field at this point. I did get a text from his campaign today, Jennifer from Matt Mahan's campaign. So they wanted to know if I'll be supporting Matt in the election so we can keep San Jose focused on the basics like safe streets, cleaning up blight, and ending the era of encampments. And I already know that their data is corrupt and that their data analysis is screwed up and their work is screwed up, because throughout the campaign last year, I would get these texts and I would respond every time like, go away, go to hell, stop, right? And they kept texting me, kept mailing me things. They kept me on their list. So I don't know if he's trolling me or because the mayor knows me personally. We went to the same high school, or if it's just they're incompetent. I would like to think it's the second, and that I'm not being trolled, because I don't think I'm that special.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it shakes out. And we got this next story. This is This Week in Vehicle versus Structure. There's two things I like about this. One, the still of it is the same color scheme actually that I'm running right now in the studio. But two, with Halloween coming, this is a very Halloween sort of story, actually.
Maybe that was what they had in mind. Who knows? But yeah, we're going to find out more about that. There were actually 3 different vehicle versus structure stories we could have chosen from this week. I thought this was the most appropriate.
Lieutenant man is now behind bars after San Bruno police say he stole a car and crashed it during a chase. It happened around 2:30 Friday morning when a man reported his car had been stolen near the Rollingwood neighborhood in San Bruno, just west of I-280. As officers went to the scene, they say they saw someone driving the stolen car, and soon after officers gave chase, the thief reportedly crashed the car into a fence at Golden Gate National Cemetery. The car was totaled. Police say the 23-year-old suspect was taken to the hospital before being booked into San Mateo County Jail on several charges.
Holy shit. I'd say the cemetery won.
Yeah, I absolutely. Good on the cemetery. That's great.
Fucking that shit. Those people are dead, but they're not incapable of flipping a car over.
Hell no, that's fantastic. Good on them. Good on them. Well, we will. If we don't have a vehicle versus structure story come up in the next week, I'll revisit the others that we did have. But it seems like it's becoming more and more prevalent. So I don't know and it's not driverless cars. Remember, it's almost exclusively human-driven cars that we're talking about here. So Cruise may have lost its license, but it's the people that are driving into cemeteries and consulates and retail stores.
A self-driving car would actually get away from the police.
Probably. I mean, a self-driving car you would think would stop short of crashing into a building or a cemetery, especially a cemetery. It'd have a little more sense than that, probably.
The self-driving cars only kill people who are alive.
You're correct. Correct. They say they don't sense the dead people. They skirt around them. We're going to go back. We reached the end of our show this week, and for another thing, we're going to go with things this week because there were actually a couple stories I thought would be really fun to cover, and one of them's quick. It's right after this one, but saw this and it sparked my attention. So if you're looking to, if you want to get a degree and you want to get something a little offbeat, if you're looking to improve your botany skills, Cal State East Bay, or Cal State Hayward formerly, is offering a new program that you might want to take a look at.
Well, new this morning, Cal State East Bay wants to make sure that licensed cannabis sellers have all the tools they need to abide by growing, taxation, and even insurance rules to stay legit.
Today in the Bays, Chris Sanchez joins us with CSU's East Bay's very kind of unique program.
Yeah, some parents might be getting from their kids, hey, Ma, I want to try this new course at CSU East Bay, but it's totally legit. California cannabis growers account for about 20% of all of the legal marijuana in the country. The problem is California isn't producing as much as it used to. Some growers say it's just so complicated. Now take a look. Last year, California's legal sellers had about $5.3 billion in sales, which might seem like a lot, but that represents a more than 8% drop over the year before. California has just about 1,000 legal dispensaries, and some growers have given up their licenses. The University of Cal State East Bay is partnering with the training platform Green Flower to launch 4 different certificate programs. This includes healthcare and medicine, business, compliance and risk management, even agriculture and horticulture. Now, both sides say this partnership in the program comes in part to the response of heavy regulation that cannabis businesses face for operating in the state as the industry is trying to grow to meet the need.
It's important that we realize that cannabis is not something to be afraid of. And California has always been the leader in that nationally and internationally. And so to bring these programs to trusted institutions like Cal State East Bay really shows you that the industry is here to stay.
The first classes launch in November, so there is still time to enroll. The cost is just about $3,000. Green Flower says that upon completion of this coursework, students have the opportunity to apply to become legal cannabis growers.
That's cool, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a major that's going to put you on the forefront of future business, I say why not. I do like that. I appreciate that. Like, can you imagine the conversation with your parents if they were fronting the bill for your college, right? Hey, Mom, Dad, kids ask all the time, like, can I be this when I grow up? Can I be an astronaut when I grow up? Can I be a police officer when I grow up? Or oh, God, I hope not. But you know what I mean. Can I be a cannabis grower when I grow up?
Well, it seems like these are more like certification programs than like part of a 4-year program. It seems like they're more like, it seems like, I don't know. I'd have to look into this because this might actually be a grift. Who knows?
Well, there's also some, it looks like there's also some, economic, like business education, right? How to run a business. Obviously there's some things that are standard across all businesses, but there's obviously things that are specific to the cannabis industry, but it looks like they're offering an opportunity for people to learn more about, growing, pun intended, a business, and managing and owning a business, and running their own business, in addition to the specifics of the cannabis trade. So good on them. I think this won't be the last program we see. And it's good that, to be honest, I think it's good that they're moving in this direction, because the more standards you have and the more opportunity you have and the more accessibility you have by giving people the tools and the knowledge to succeed, the better, right? The more it's this like weird, amorphous, thing that most people can't understand and wouldn't want to figure out, right? You restrict it to the bros, the tech bros who can afford to have all the lawyers and have all the business people and have the whole med men setup going on, right? The Kalivas and the Eases. and you don't make it accessible to the mom and pops anymore, literally. So good on them for. We'll yet to be seen, right, if it is a grift or not, but because it looked like some of the people behind this particular program were a lot of the tech white bros.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We'll see. We'll give it a year or two. Maybe we'll never check back in on this, but I'm incredibly cynical. So,
yeah.
By the way, real quick, I want to say that I think that a lot of the reason that the legal cannabis business is down is because, and this is just anecdotal, but I myself and other people that I know no longer bother with the dispensaries because we have other avenues through which to procure cannabis.
Yeah, they're still probably cheaper, easier, and just, not safer necessarily, but it's certainly easier, cheaper, more convenient, and don't involve paying like 20% tax to your local government, right, and state government.
Right.
Because the cost, I take advantage of delivery just because it's convenient for me as a new dad. I just can't get out at all anymore. And I really don't, I can't get out to necessarily see my dude, and do it the way I used to. But you look at the bill and it's like, yeah, when I was in college, an eighth was like $45-$50, and you're getting an eighth for, you get an eighth for $15, but you're paying like $40 in tax on that eighth. So it's like the same thing as buying it on the street too. So if they really wanted to make it more accessible and really undercut the black market, they make it fundamentally cheaper than the black market. And your name isn't on the list somewhere, and you're not, having
I'm not concerned about the name on the list somewhere. It's just less convenient. And, it's also not free, but not everybody's in the position I'm in where it's just fucking free.
Right. It is true. So, we've yet to be seen on this program, but I think the more knowledge and information that's out there in general on how to run a business, I think would benefit people. I certainly would have benefited from that myself. I didn't go into cannabis, but just having that acumen would have really helped me.
Right, we're right up against it here, so we're gonna one more story. If you're feeling down about down ballot, don't worry. This is a fucking baby giraffe.
There you go.
There's a newborn at the Oakland Zoo. Her name is Kendi, meaning loved one in Swahili. And while she arrived yesterday, she's already probably taller than you. This giraffe is 6'5", 150 pounds. Kendi is the first giraffe born at the zoo in 11 years. That story is one of the top things people are clicking on right now on our website, of course, because Kendi is so cute. It's up for you on the top news sidebar at abc7news.com.
So sweet. I wish I knew what adorable was in Swahili.
That would be a great one. Yeah.
We'll have to look it up. I watched my wife go through labor with the bad baby, and it looked pretty freaking painful. And the bad baby was actually pretty small when she came out. She was a little early. I cannot imagine having to squeeze a 6'5" bony giraffe out of yourself. So kudos to Mama Giraffe for that. That's amazing. It's taller than me already.
Yep. Well, everybody, thanks for checking out Downballot. I'm going to go ahead and read us out this week.
Go for it, brother.
You can find this show on any of your podcatchers and on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, whatever. If you go to Rumble or Odyssey, don't click around anywhere, though, beside this podcast. Support this project at eplex.store or patreon.com/echoplex. Other ways to support this project can be found at our website. Just click the support tab at the top at echoplexmedia.com. Thanks for joining me again this week, Councilman. We're going to play a couple songs real quick. I'm going to change the color of the lights, change the content of my drink, and everybody. There's a night meeting of the fucking Shasta County Board of Supervisors going on right now. So that's what we're going to be watching for public comment this evening. Podcast listeners, sorry. Later, Councilman.
Enjoy.
This is Audible Smoke Signal. The song is called Locals, and I'll be back in a few minutes.
Peace out.
Time to get the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing greens. Here at the front of the stage, waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next to me with a pipe in his hand, ready to blaze for me? About 5 minutes later, we're all singing Queen. Now get the fuck up on stage, man, rock the scene. Yeah, we do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink. Spark it if you got it and then pass it to me. Yeah, we do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty at 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course. Shouldn't you be inside? I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the U.S. economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rocking me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rocky the roller, yo, that sexy girl be jocking me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'll probably do it sloppily. We do what we wanna do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band, enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we wanna do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bob Marley say that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Well, Bob Marley said that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yeah, we do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Yeah, we do what we want, and what we wanna do, what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. We do what we want, what we wanna do, what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Yeah, 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 yeah. Just what we want and enjoy the band. So sit back, just sit back and enjoy the band. We just what we want and enjoy what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Just what we want and enjoy what we want is to jam. Just sit back with the band.
Can't get enough Echoplex and want to keep the conversation going with the hosts and community when we're not live? Then join our Discord server at discord.me/Echoplex. We have text channels, voice channels, meme repositories, and a whole section of screenshots that we don't even remember where they came from. Come join the Now Space on Discord at discord.me/Echoplex.